What up, perps? Kid Copious, back in effect. Purple State Party, you know what we're doing here. Repping America, the center, common sense. Good old-fashioned common sense. It's really lacking right now. But what we're really seeing is the fact that the two political parties are showing their true colors. They're all about getting reelected. And that's all it is. It's all about getting reelected and selling us product. You know, that's why we have all of this fakery with these companies who sign off on all these social issues and stuff. And we've seen how that all goes. Like, the only thing that can change the heart of Americans is the truth. And that's what we need to go back to. Do you know it's Pride Month right now? I know a lot of people are still out there being ostracized and demonized for the way they are. And I think that's bullshit. And this one's for all of them people who are still having to struggle in the modern day society to get people to just accept them for who they are. Thank you for accepting me. This one's for all of you. Yeah. Just a couple days ago, it was June 6th, the 80th anniversary of D-Day. I bring up D-Day a lot because to me D-Day embodies a lot of ideals that I like to follow. You know, a lot of the men who got off of those boats you see there and were instantly killed by German machine gunners, artillery shells, and drowning in the water. Some of those people were 16, 17 years old. And they lied about their age to get into the military, to go overseas, to fight Hitler, to fight Japan. You know, Hitler was exterminating the Jews. Japan had attacked us at Pearl Harbor. These people saw it as their duty. Nowadays, it seems like we're trying to raise a generation that would never do that. I don't want to besmirch an entire generation. But from what I see, a majority of people are not going to lie about their age to go over there. In fact, right now we have a minority in this country of young people who are chanting death to Israel. They are on the side of evil, despotic rulers who adhere to a religion that does not accept anything that these American kids accept. We should be volunteering to go over there and fight for their freedom. But instead, we're learning about all of these ideologies that are just fracturing this country. And our political parties are profiting off of it because they know where we stand. And that really sucks. And sometimes these young left-wingers, they don't even know which way to go. We have an intersectional civil war with a clash between pride marchers and Palestinian supporters. And there it is. That's what it looked like. I don't understand how two people on the same exact side can come to blows over something this stupid. They are being led. They are being misled into supporting Palestine. They're saying things like freedom for Gaza. When Gaza was free, they were free to choose Hamas. Hamas is the one who took away their freedom. They say they want a ceasefire, yet there was a ceasefire. And Hamas broke that ceasefire. I'm sorry, the media likes to paint it as Hamas is this terrorist group. Well, in reality, they're just an army of Gaza. The invasion of Israel on the 7th is no different than Putin's invasion of Ukraine. I don't see how we are not standing together and backing Israel like we're backing Ukraine. It's the same exact situation. Bah. Found this one be a little bit funny. An ultra woke Chicago alderwoman will stop issuing crime alerts because they create bad perception. Well, lady, people perceive what they see, you know? And to try to say that stopping putting out your crime alerts shows your commitment to empowerment, anti-racism, and community. By what? Lying to them? Keeping the truth from them? You know, her little area has the highest levels in years of theft and robbery and sex crimes. And you have to opt in to receive crime alerts. So essentially, she's just saying, if you want to keep your head buried in the sand, I'll appease you. And this, she says, was based on feedback and her commitment to empowerment. Empowering who? Anti-racism. How? If the suspect is black, he's black. And community? I don't understand how that helps keeping people in the dark about the true crime statistics. Look, when there is racism, we need to stamp it out. I agree with that, 100%. But simply not reporting it so that certain groups don't look bad. Look, that's what it is. That's the hardest part for the left to understand. If math groups or honor groups are predominantly filled by white and Asian students, well, that's what it is. You have to accept that and move on. You have to figure out how you could help the groups that aren't being represented in there. Well, whatever. They're just going to do what they do. You can't say that both groups don't do it. Both Republicans and Democrats don't do it. By keeping us ignorant, they keep us, hooked. No better way of saying it. But in Chicago, over the Memorial Day weekend, 41 people were shot, 9 fatally, including a 5-year-old girl. Crime is an issue in Chicago. People need to know where the bad areas of town are. It's sometimes easy to tell the bad areas and sometimes easy to tell the good areas. It's those middle areas, those gray areas. People need to be made aware of what's going on around them, no matter what the perceived notion is. One of the things it's getting talked about a little bit here in LA. But lately in LA, over 100 fire hydrants have been stolen, essentially for scrap, to sell the scrap metal. The way that we do this is by passing a law. Very simply. Critical infrastructure. That is a felony. That is a felony that they are going to take all the way and put these people in jail. Infrastructure, that can also include stealing catalytic converters. Because the infrastructure of, especially California, is people's cars. Car theft, hydrant theft, copper wire theft. They've stolen telephone lines. They are knocking out vital infrastructure, and nobody seems to do anything about it. Because it's just being charged the way they charge everything here in California. Try to work it down, get it down to a misdemeanor. We don't want to affect their immigration status. Stealing fire hydrants. That's how far down we've gone. See, when you see those dystopian movies where people are just being murdered at random, for crossing the border or thinking the wrong thoughts or having books, Fahrenheit 451. It starts with this kind of crap, where things just disintegrate. Society disintegrates. Every time that hydrant gets stolen, it has to be replaced. That's money that could be used in other locations for other things. But no, they're stealing the brass of fire equipment. I work in the fire industry. I know what it's like. I've seen buildings literally gutted of copper. I've seen critical pieces of firefighting equipment being vandalized and parts stolen. And copper wire, the big plan here in California and nationwide is we're all going to be electric and we're going to be living off the sun. Woohoo. Never going to work, but the one thing it's going to require is copper. We got more about copper coming up. Copper is kind of a theme today, I guess. But anyhow, if they don't get serious about it, it's just going to spiral more. Speaking of getting serious about it, the GOP with their strongly worded letters, Bronco illustrating it here perfectly, the lawfare against Trump, and what the GOP actually does about it. The donkey. Oh no, it's another strongly worded letter. Brace for impact. And this is what it could be, as illustrated by Bronco. Backfiring. Some reports have Biden up. You know what? The polls in this country are just a bunch of bullshit. They may indicate a general direction, but you're trusting people to be honest. You're trusting people to actually give the true answer. So we never know. We never know. I mean, remember, Hillary was going to mud stomp Trump. We know how that turned out. But this targeting of political opponents through the courts, bringing up these zombie cases like they did against Trump, this will backfire. And the worst part is it's not just going to be Biden and the Democrats who it backfires on. It's going to backfire on all of America. Babylon Bee. Biden announced his plan to pretend to care about the border until November 6th. He's reversed his direction. He's gone back to Trump era types of laws, and he did it with a stroke of the pen, just like he got rid of it. What's going on at the border is much bigger than a lot of people realize. With this border policy that we've been living with for the last 3.5 years, terror groups, cartels, and foreign operatives could just stream across the border. Don't tell me they couldn't, because we know they have. We've seen the rise of certain Argentinian gangs. We've now had Jordanian immigrants trying to sneak onto Camp Pendleton. We've had Air Force bases that have been breached, sometimes just because people accidentally drove onto them. I understand that. But people have been caught at Air Force bases. We have turned over the security of the country to a group of people who don't give a shit about the security of our country. But of course, when he goes back to the Trump era, AOC and Omar condemn Biden's border betrayal. It's a betrayal. It's a betrayal of what? I agree that we need to streamline, that we need to get people in, but only people who are coming here for the right reasons. This is not like one of those TV love shows like Bachelor, okay, where nobody's on there for the right reasons. They're all on there to make a television show. Nobody's really there to find love, okay? That's what we're doing down at the border right now. We're letting people in who are not coming in for the right reasons. I don't want to waste too much time on that. But part of that problem is illustrated in this article. Tens of thousands of migrants exempt from Biden's tough new border restrictions. And why? Tens of thousands of migrants from countries including China and Venezuela, two places where we have a big beef with, could be exempt because their home countries refuse to take them back. So if Venezuela dumps their prisoners at our border, we have to take them. We have to take the Venezuelan criminals because the Venezuelans aren't going to take them back. We, the United States of America, are having our borders breached by bad people, and those countries are saying we don't want them back, and we're taking it? What the hell? We don't need to take it. Why in the F are we worried about other countries' feelings or how we look? We are the top dog, and we should start acting that way. All right? Sometimes I find myself in a position where I have to agree and disagree with the exact same thing. This comes from the Hill. Senate Republicans block consideration of bill to create a right to contraception. Now, they call it unnecessary because they don't impose it and there's no efforts to ban it. Well, I don't know about that. Senate Democrats are using their power in the majority to push an alarmist and false narrative that there was a problem accessing contraception. This comes from Bill Cassidy, a Republican from Louisiana. This is not an issue unless their candidate for president is running behind in the polls. I agree with that. The Democrats simply put this forward to make Republicans vote against it. Now, I don't think that after what we saw with the overturning of Roe versus Wade, I don't think this falls into the powers of the federal government. I think this is a statewide thing. But beyond that, if you don't want abortions, then you need to have contraception. It's as simple as that. You can't make these rules based upon your religious beliefs and your personal beliefs. Abortion, having a baby, those are very personal choices, and I really think the government should stay out of them, to be honest with you. If you want to put certain limitations, we can discuss that. But that's what they did. They got them on record as being against contraception. They fell for it. Why did they fall for it? Because they wanted to placate their constituents. But the real move would have been to support it. That's what I would have wanted out of the Republicans. And they had an opportunity and they failed. Trump's New York gun permit to be revoked following conviction. That just shows you how dumb that law is. Do you really think that anything Trump did, whether you believe the trial or not, do you really think his gun should be taken away? Now we're going to get into one really has me pissed off. This article that's coming up shows you why I don't like Democrats. Okay? I don't like the fact that they think they are our nannies, that they are here to tell us what's good for us, to take away hot Cheetos and Fruit Loops because it might cause cancer. You know, what's the real chance that Fruit Loops are going to give me cancer? Okay? But here's their latest one. The Tortilla bill that threatens to flatten small businesses. Proposed legislation in California mandates folic acid in masa flour, sparking fears among traditional tortilla makers about cost and cultural impact. Yeah, they're really for you, right? Yeah, they do not want you making your own tortillas. This was introduced by some asshole who looks of Spanish heritage, too, from Fresno, that would require all masa manufacturers to fortify their products with folic acid. This will infect, well, anybody in the Mexican food or South American, Central American food cuisine business. Well, I was strung together well. The rationale is based on research showing that the ingestion of folic acid by women of reproductive age can reduce neural tube birth defects, such as spinal bifida and a word I cannot pronounce. So because it's good for pregnant women, we're going to mandate it in all masa. Yeah, we're going to save you guys, whether you like it or not. Well, oddly enough here, the LA Times columnist Gustavo Arellano, I know this guy from his time on Kevin and Bean. He used to do the Ask a Mexican series, I think, for the OC Register. Very straightforward shooting guy. And he says that mass-produced corn tortillas are like the lickable part of an envelope. He was able to tell the difference between folic acid and non-folic acid corn tortillas instantly. So it does make a difference. It makes a rubbery texture. But it's about culture. Do you see that they are willing to sabotage their support of cultures to show their power? Why don't we just make sure that women are having folic acid? That's what they should be doing. Take your folic acid, especially if you're pregnant. But to mandate it, to destroy, there is a difference. I myself know, okay? I know. I've had tortillas that come from Mexican factories. I've tasted the difference between store-bought corn tortillas and homemade corn tortillas. I'm lucky. I surround myself with Authentico, and I get to taste Authentico. This is fucking spitting in the face of a culture to tell them that they need to change their methods. But while they're out keeping us safe, let's look at what happened in Houston. The downside of forced electrification. Houstonians, this was during the storms that they just recently had. They couldn't cook because they had electric stoves. They couldn't heat water because they had electric water heaters. And electric vehicles couldn't charge them. Gas is unaffected by wind and rain. Our electrical infrastructure is not. Our cars can be recharged from a can of gasoline. And you could use that to at least keep your cell phone going. Maybe your computer's going. If you got a bigger, like some of these trucks, shit, you could power a lot off of those. But that's propane, natural gas, and gasoline. Ain't electricity. They are imagining a world that leaves us so unsafe, but yet they want to tell us how people could make tortillas. It's frustrating. I brought this up a few weeks ago. We have about 130 years left of natural gas. We have 5 times the reserves of Saudi Arabia in terms of oil, enough for 227 years. We have enough coal for 485 years. And even if we were to get rid of all of that stuff, it would make a difference of 0.2 degrees Celsius. And that would be in 76 years. Over 76 years, if we were to completely cease all activity on fossil fuels, that's the difference it would make, 0.2 degrees. And I bet you, in that same time, the temperature would rise because of other countries. I'm not saying we shouldn't clean up our act. We should. We should clean up our fuel. We should clean up the engines that burn the fuel. But to force us all into electrification this quickly, without doing things like burying electrical lines, it's stupid. And we're being led down this path by these fucking Democrats while the Republicans just stand by and go, oh, there's nothing we can do. All right, strap in. Speed run time here. Increasing copper production for green energy is not just difficult, it's impossible, study says. Yeah, because one thing is the permitting process. The Resolution Copper Mine in Arizona would increase U.S. production about 500,000 metric tons, 25% of the current demand. That's been in development for 30 years. Yeah. There are only 20 copper mines, and you need copper. Let me reiterate. You need copper for electricity, right? And right now, they're expecting to need about 50 million metric tons of copper annually by 2050. Right now, we're getting 8 to 9 million. So we got a long ways to go, and it's not easy, as we saw with the permitting. Researchers have found that the world will need 115% more copper that has been mined in all of human history up to 2018 just to meet current demand. See, that's what they're not looking at. We will need to bring online 6 new large copper mines over the next several decades, every year for 10 years. All of that mining for copper, because copper is the best conductor out there. But when you think about the fact that most of our copper mines are from the 50s and 60s, you could see the problem. Where are the new ones? We're going to need new ones. And we can't just expand them. Because as you expand the mine, the grade of copper goes down. As they're made larger and larger, it costs more and more money to get that copper out. They're not considering these things. Quickly, Nicaragua is profiting from facilitating large-scale migratory flows to the United States. Yep, that's right. They have developed a system down there in Nicaragua to bring in people from Cuba, Haiti, Venezuela, Eastern Europe, Asia, and Africa, all around the world, bringing in people whose ideas don't necessarily line up with American ideals. They're flown on charter flights. For instance, in October, 36 flights from Haiti were recorded in just 3 days. They're bringing them in, they're charging them $150, and then they're facilitating their move northward. Countries are profiting off of our illegal immigration, our open border. The Nicaraguan government has earned at least $65 million from these activities. $65 million Nicaragua got for facilitating it. Just dumb ideas. Look at this dumb idea. California fast food restaurants have cut 10,000 jobs thanks to the new $20 minimum wage. You realize if these people were getting paid $16 and now they're getting paid $20, that's a 25% increase. 25% increase in your employee costs are going to make it very difficult to run your business. The businesses that are being affected are franchises, not corporately owned. And even if they were corporately owned, how sustainable is this? Because who's next? Who's next to get the $20 bump? Yeah. The WAPU got rid of their editorial staff, the people running the paper, because quite frankly, in the last year, they lost $77 million. And they had layoffs of nearly 13% of their staff last year. Because they were going with the DEI. They were going with we are going to be the propaganda wing of the left. So they're the ones who doubled down on the Russian collusion, doubled down on the fake laptop. Yeah. Fauci, the mask is off, lies, flip-flops, deceit. This dude, angry Fauci demands congressmen address him as the science. He wasn't the science. This was some of the BS stuff that he brought up. Stuff like the fact that at one point he said, it's been proven that when you make it difficult for people in their lives, they lose their ideological bullshit and they get vaccinated. I only got vaccinated because I knew I was going to need the card for concerts. And that's a big part of my life. I also wasn't really afraid of the vaccine. Maybe we should have been a little bit more. But now he's turning around trying to say, oh, that's not what I meant. And honestly, I'm sure you've heard enough about this. But finding out that we were being lied to and we were being misled and that a lot of decisions that were made didn't need to be made, I was kind of saying that the whole time. So this does not come as much of a surprise to me. But it is very disappointing. It's very disappointing because the next time this happens, it's going to happen exactly the same way. Gender activists outraged as lesbian dating app that will exclude biological men with facial recognition. So you can't have an app for lesbians that only includes natural women. What kind of world are we trying to build here? They are literally going to sacrifice the feelings and the rights of all of the biological women to placate the trans-identifying males. So the men. Yeah, that's fair. Their ideas they're so stupid. Paris wanted an AC-free Olympics. Visiting nations had other plans. They learned it with the plastic bags. Their shit backfires. Countries are just bringing in their own AC units. They are going to use more power than it had been originally projected. They could have just put ACs into the living quarters and been done with it. But no, they wanted to make a statement about the sustainability and the climate and all of that. Yeah, okay. And once again, of course, it's going to affect poorer nations. Because they're not necessarily going to be able to afford to bring in AC units for their athletes. They burden the poor while claiming to be for the poor. The environment more than the poor, I don't understand their logic at all. For me, it's very simple. Humans are on the top of the list. You do what you can to keep humans alive and safe and those types of things. And then you can start having your beliefs down below. But you have to start off on a firm base. And that's not what they're doing here. Removing the ACs or not having the ACs at the Olympics wasn't going to change anything. It was a symbolic gesture that is now blown up in their face. Why can't anybody see this? Why can't people start to see that these highfalutin ideas don't work? And let's just get back to doing things that work. The left is just, there are people on the right that I absolutely hate, okay? Some of them extremists. people who are anti-gay, people who are forcing young girls to have babies by their stepfathers. It's fucking gross. It's vile. Okay? That's how I describe the right. Vicious, vile, disgusting. On the left, I describe them as unhinged because it's crazy. Babylon Bee sums up the craziness. Democrats call for removal of Nelson Mandela's statue in D.C. after learning he was a convicted felon. Speaking of felons, Babylon Bee closing it out. American voters looking forward to choosing between convicted felon and unconvicted felon. I don't know what Biden's felonies are necessarily. But one of the odd things that strikes me about this is, obviously right now we have two trials. We had the Trump trial about lying on hush money and the Hunter Biden gun charge. Now, the thing is that Trump's was never going to result in people losing their lives. The Hunter one could have, a more serious crime. But you can't compare Trump and Hunter Biden. That's like comparing apples and Buicks. They're not the same. The fact that they managed to get a conviction on Trump changes my mind. Not at all. Okay? Biden has done a fucking horrible job. I am not a sycophant for Trump. I really wish that white line in between these two pictures was being filled by somebody who was purple. Somebody who wanted to return to making common sense decisions and not just trying to inflame the division that's here in America. The only way that we're ever going to fix the bigger issues that are plaguing the states and the nation are by pulling together. And everybody from the top dogs right there to the media is doing everything it can to split us apart and making us think that something's happening that's not. And that's what I want to close with. I want people to remember that when we tell these stories about trans inmates or trans athletes, things like that, this is not the average trans person. These are the stories that are being brought up to inflame the division. I bring them up to try to show you the stupidity of some of these decisions. But it's not about the people. Okay? I don't remember who said it, but somebody said it best. They said, if you are afraid of a trans woman going into your bathroom, it's not the trans woman you're afraid of. It's the person who's going to take advantage of it. That's the lack of common sense that we're seeing in our country right now. People's safeties are being thrown out the window in the name of equity, in the name of getting fucking votes. I just want to bring forth common sense. I'm Kid Copious, Purple State Party, and so are you. Love one another. Love yourself. Drink your water. Don't be stupid. And for God's sakes, don't forget to dance it out.